Hey guys, so let's talk about constructors. A constructor is a special kind of method that we use to create new object instances of a class. It has a declaration similar to common methods, but without the return type. It also has an access modifier. The name is equal to the name of the class, and it can also have parameters. We've already used a constructor when creating the player object. When using the keyword new, we are calling the class constructor. All classes have a default constructor. This is the default constructor of the player class. It has the same name as the class, accepts no parameters, and returns a new class instance object. The default constructor is always present, even if not declared. We can use the constructor to set initial values to instance fields or properties. For example, we can set the default name Tom to all new player instances. In this way, all new players have the name Tom. But we can also create our custom constructors with parameters. For example, we could create a new one to set the player name when creating a new player instance. In this way, we can create players with a default or a custom name. Now, let's assume that we have a new enum to define the player type. The player can either be human or a computer. And just like we did with the player name, we can add a new constructor to create players specifying the player type. But as you can see, the player name is now empty. This happens because we are no longer assigning a default or a custom value to the player name. If we wanted to assign a default name when using the player type constructor, we could just assign the value like this. But as you should probably know, if we are repeating code, it's hardly the best solution. Luckily, constructors have this thing where a constructor can call another one in the same object using the this keyword. So now, when calling the constructor with only the player type, we use the this keyword to call the constructor with the default name. And, in this way, instances created using the type constructor also have the default name. But let's imagine that instead of the default name, we wanted to use the player type value as the player name. A player of type human is called human, and a player of type computer is called computer. Instead of using the default constructor, we can use the this keyword to call the name constructor with the correct value. Any arguments in the constructor are available as parameters when using the this keyword. And just to finish, we could also create a new constructor with multiple parameters to set both the name and the player type.